bends like so. So very simple and very easy to bend. And that's particularly after you've heated it. Hello, this is BJ from Hearns Hobbies, and I'm going to talk about brass and how to use brass for your models. Now, specifically, this sort of brass tube. Now, this is a brass tube that's made by K&S, but there's quite a variety of different brass tubes and shapes made by a variety of companies. And the techniques I'm going to show you on how to manipulate it will work on either of those. Now, when you get your brass tube, it's going to be this very shiny yellow goldy color, and usually when you get it, it's already hardened. So I'll give you a quick look here. So as you do the quick flex, so you get a bit of movement, but it is quite stiff. Now, quite often you'll probably want to make some more intricate bends or curves, as I've done with this one here. Okay, so I'm going to teach you how to make the brass malleable enough to bend like this, and then also how to cut it. All right, so let's go into the bending first. Now, easiest way to get it to bend like that is to heat it. Now, I've got this is the same thickness as that one, so it's a little bit thinner. Now, you might notice that the ends I've already heated, and so hence they've changed color. Now, heating this will make it softer. Now, here's the natural yellow color. This one being heated bends like so. So very simple and very easy to bend. And that's particularly after you've heated it. And this still very stiff. Okay, it's going to try and want to. You will be able to bend it, but not as easily as this. And if you want to do really tight curves like this, you'll have to heat it. So let me just quickly show you how you do so. Now, what I've done here, let's just straighten that out so it's a bit easier to handle. Now, this part here I've already heated before, and I've hardened it, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And what I'll do now is just show you how to soften it. Now, you soften it by applying some raw flame to heat it through. Now, I've already preheated these just so you can see the difference in color after it's been heated, and it will turn quite dark and it will change tone, and that's what you're looking for. Okay, so I've got this sort of jet type lighter. Now, you can either use your household gas stove, or one of these sort of lighters, or even a brulee type, a larger type will do the job. But these are quite adequate for their price. Okay, so we just click it on, and we just heat it. So as I'll heat this section here where it's yellow, so you can see how it changes color. Once it starts getting into a darker sort of browny color, that's pretty right. And I'm aiming the tip of the blue flame. It's a bit hard to see though. And you can just see it changing color. Okay, you see it's starting to go blue. Blue's probably a bit too far, but it's still okay. All right, so there we go. That's changed color, and that's already softened. So what we'll do is we'll just let it naturally cool, and it's this slow cooling process that's allowing the brass to remain soft. Okay, so I just wet my fingers and just quickly touch it. Got a bit of water here. You wet your fingers so that when you touch it, it won't burn straight to you. So it's still a little bit hot. Leave it for a couple more minutes. It will cool down reasonably quickly. Okay, so it's getting there. I can handle it now. Okay, so that's fine. Okay, so that's the softened part here. And with that comes, you see that now, it's quite easy to bend. All right, so that's just bending with my fingers. Now, obviously bending with my fingers is not going to give me a really smooth curve. So that's where tube benders come handy. And I've got a selection of tube benders here. Now, the tube benders are basically a very tightly rolled spring. And the idea is you get the one that's closest in diameter, you slide it over the top, and as you bend it, it'll give a very even force across the bend and give you a really even bend. Okay, so this one here, that's the one that's going to fit this thin one tube I've already heated. So you just pop it in there. And then as you bend, you can see the spring bending around. That gives a really nice curve, and then you just pull this out. There you go, nice smooth curve. Okay, but just for example, you want to make a really tight curve, just like the ones I've done here, then you're going to need something a bit more aggressive. So stuff like needle nose pliers would be the way to go. Now, you just grip the ends, you can actually force this to pull very tight. Okay, as you can see, like that. A little right angle. Okay, so you probably saw that it has crimped in the center. Well, that will happen by doing it like this, because it's not a very even force. But if you just do it gently like this, you'll be able to pull a very tight curve like that. Okay, very simple indeed. Okay, so after you've finished shaping what you need, and if you need the same strength as it was before, easiest way is you reheat it, and then we're going to quench it in some water. Okay, so just hold it on to some pliers again, get my trusty torch, we'll heat the end. Actually, let's just get all the way around here, and then I'm just going to drop it into this water. So you heard the quench there, where it just goes fizz. Okay, so that's all cooled down. And because it's being cooled down so quickly, it hardens up the brass. Okay, so this part right here is really hard now, as you can see from here. As opposed to this part, which I haven't quenched, and that's still really soft. And that's how simple it is to make the brass more workable. Simply heat it until it changes color, allow it to cool down naturally, slowly, it'll become soft. Change the shape the way you want it. If you need the strength again, just heat the section and quench it. So obviously if you want to do this whole section here, you'll need something bigger than what I have there. You need something to cover the whole line. But it's simple like that. Okay, so that's how you soften brass, harden brass, and bend. Now I'll show you your options of cutting brass. Now you can either use one of these really fine razor saws. So a really fine razor saw will be able to cut through after some time, so there's a little bit of effort. It'll give you a reasonably clean cut. Now I'll do that quickly now, and I'll let you see what it looks like. All right, let's just put it here, and we'll slowly go through. Now, tubing this small can be a bit hard to handle, so probably easier if I had a vise. I was going to show you how clean it sort of looks, but it's a bit hard for me to get through at the moment. See if I can do this. Okay, so that's off. Okay, so with a razor saw, it'll cut like this. Okay, so it's going to leave some saw marks, but it's reasonably clean. Okay, you can see just in the center there. I'm going to focus in on there. It's just got a little bit of dags in the center. So all you need to clean it up is we use one of our trusty sanding boards. And what we've got here, we've got 240 there. Okay, so it's just cleaning the edge, and then it's going to have some sharp dags, and just gently go around the outside to sharpen it off. Use a finer grit here, that's 400. And there you go, very nice and clean. Okay, so any dags on the inside you clean out with a sharp blade. That's pretty much ready to work on your model now. Alternatively, you can use a brass cutter. Okay, so there's a brass cutter here made by K&S. So what this is going to do is there's a blade on the inside. So as you open this up, it'll probably be easier to see the blade. So this is basically, you can enlarge this to cut larger tube, and then you tighten it up to cut smaller tube. So you can see the blade there. So it's just basically a round blade, and it's going to have pressure on one side, and you rotate the tube, and it scores the tube to the point where it goes all the way through. So I will demonstrate and let you see what it's like. Actually, let's just tighten it up. Okay, so I'm tightening it up to the point where it's just about the size of the tube I want to cut. Yeah, let's do this one here. This might be hard actually because it's very thin, hard to grasp. But slide it in there and we'll tighten it up until it just feels tight. Okay, so it just feels tight. What's going to happen basically is if you try to tighten it anymore, it'll bend the blade, and we don't want to do that. So from here, you just want to rotate this around so that it's scoring. So the blade's rotating all the way around. And as it's doing that, you tighten it up gently, do it again. And you continue that motion until it cuts all the way through. So you just have to be very patient with this. I should be very, very close now. Alright, so let's just open it up. Now sometimes on the really thin stuff, it squeezes so it can't go all the way through. It's probably just being held on by a really thin membrane. But you can see there where it's all been scored. Now at this point, we just snap it off. Okay, just like that. Okay, and then you can see the difference in the cut. So this is going to give you a much straighter cut, as in it's more perpendicular, but it's a little bit rougher because actually it's squeezing in, and then you just clean it up exactly the same way. So let's use this one. Okay, so there's a bit of 240, 400. Clean off the edges, take off those sharp edges. There you go. So the biggest difference you're going to find is how perpendicular it is, and then how clean the opening of the inside tube is. So your two options for cutting. Obviously, if you need to cut angled, non-perpendicular cuts, then the saw is going to be better. All right, so since you've seen that, let's see what we're going to do now. So I think that's about it. We've gone through the how to heat the brass. So heating it, changing the color, allowing it to cool down to room temperature naturally will make it go soft, like so, very malleable. And then change the shape to the way you like, heat it again, and then drop it straight into some water to quench, and the change in temperature very quickly will make it harden again. And then you've got a very solid piece. And then for cutting, just use a very fine razor saw or the tube cutter. Razor saw, take your time, cut it so that it's nice and straight, and then clean it up with some sanding paper. Or use a tube cutter, very gently adjust the cutting bit into the tube, rotate, and then gently adjust again, and then you'll end up with a really clean cut like this one here. So thank you for watching, and I hope this tip was useful.